Hey, what is up, Pizza Party? Welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm your host, Game Pizza Boy, host of the Pizza Party. I hope we're all doing fantastic today. And we're back again for another Marvel Rivals video. As you know, I'm here for some good Marvel Rivals content and ready to have a great time discussing all things Marvel Rivals with you guys, as well as many other games, of course. But today, we're back with more Marvel Rivals content, as just recently, Marvel Rivals just teased and showed us Season 2, which is honestly going to be really exciting right there. I cannot wait to actually get ready for Season 2 because it's in for a real treat right there. They announced Season 2 being themed called Hellfire Gala, which will be starting on April 11th. And it will introduce tons of stuff right here. And we'll be going over it all in this video, including the two introducing heroes that will be coming to the mix. This will be both Emma Frost and also Ultron, as well as we're going to be expecting to see Krakoa being introduced as the next part of the era that we'll be doing for these maps. As well as I'm going to go over a couple of related changes, some skins, like hero balances and adjustments, as well as also apparently some changes to team up abilities. So we'll be going over it all, and I'll be discussing with you guys and give you my thoughts, of course. So let me know in the comment section below what you're excited for the most about Season 2. And yeah, I'm really excited. I cannot wait for sure to just get this party started. So let's get right into it, and let's discuss Season 2 Hellfire Gala from Marvel Rivals. Okay, so let's kick things off with the two new heroes. We're going to obviously talk about is Emma Frost and Ultron, who will be the two new heroes that will be included in this next season right here. So far right now, we do have a lot of information based on their abilities, stuff like that from leaks, of course, but I'll be, of course, going over, obviously, the leaks for Ultron, since Ultron didn't really get much showing right now as of late at the moment. We're still waiting to see any future more gameplay about his abilities, of course, but they did get leaked before the announcement, so I'll be going over that real quick, and I'll also be going over quickly based on what we know from leaks, as well as also based on what I've seen from the trailer that was shown off recently for Emma Frost and showing her gameplay, because she'll be released first at the beginning of Season 2 during, obviously, the release of it on April 11th. Ultron will be released sometime during the second half of Season 2, and while we do have our leak of full abilities, which I'll go over, of course, one thing we do know is that actually Ultron will be a strategist, so we'll be having a strategist-related hero again in the form of Ultron right there, so we'll be going over that real quick. Now, quickly going over all Ultron's leaked abilities we know so far based on information right here. We do have a few of them right here, so bear with me what we basically know about so far based on these leak abilities, of course. I think people have already discussed about it already, but I'm going to go ahead and discuss it myself, of course. First, we do know is that he is going to have a passive ability, which is called, I believe, Algorithm Correction, which basically just lets you be able to hold down your related jump button, so whatever button is for controller on console or the spacebar on PC, and it will allow you to, of course, fall slowly while airborne, mostly like many other heroes that do something like that, of course, but they can kind of float a little bit, obviously, so that's kind of to be expected for something like that, since Ultron can do something like that, of course, for himself. Then there's also a shift ability called Dynamic Flight, which means you can quickly dash in the direction of a movement and then enter free flight mode. So I can imagine this would be something like basically kind of like a quick, fast-paced one like Magic, but not like a teleport action. It's just more like very quick, and you can fly a bit like almost like Iron Man for a brief moment in some way. But so that would be pretty cool to see how that plays out right there. Then there is another button called Imperative Patch, which is the E button on keyboard, basically, or whatever equivalent it is on controller. And it allows you to basically command a giant drone to follow any ally, and it will constantly just heal allies within its radius with additional healing for the designated allies. So basically, this will allow you to just place a droid or just type of robot clone of Ultron right onto your ally and just let them heal him over time, even if you're not there. So that's gonna be pretty nice. I could imagine this will be something that could be destroyed by the enemy team, so you just gotta be mindful whenever you see enemy team getting healed by Ultron, by this robot, you might have to destroy to stop them getting healed constantly. Another one, which is for the right mouse button, called Imperative Wall, and basically what this will do is it will allow you to, of course, summon drones to grant bonus health to allies within its range, and centered on himself and the ally marked with known as Imperative Patch, which basically this kind of gives like an AoE bonus health to allies, then making this ability a similar great tool for holding objectives like Loki's Regenerate domain right there. I think I have no idea what the Imperative Patch one does, but I believe that might be some special unique debuff or buff in their own way that could be included in some way. So we'll kind of see how that kind of plays out, of course, but I can imagine that'll be something unique right there. But obviously, then there's also his ultimate called Rage of Ultron, which allows him to summon multiple Ultron drones to fire encephalo rays, which can then damage enemies and even heal allies, of course. So it's basically a hybrid of both an offensive and very defensive purpose attack right there, making Ultron very powerful in such a big way. So it's pretty cool and excited right there, obviously, to see where that kind of plays out, obviously, of course. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see where that kind of plays out, obviously. with Ultron being included in the mix right there. And those are like the details I know for sure what we know about from the leaks that were mentioned. Of course, I'll put a link in the description below on the site that basically show off these said leaks, of course, recently. So obviously, if you guys have any ideas about what it is, or if you guys have any information about that, please let me know. Obviously right now, Marvel Rivals hasn't teased really anything yet from this besides just the introduction of Ultron, confirming all the leaks were true. So these abilities obviously could be updated and changed over time, but if these are the true ones, definitely let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, of course. Now, we did get information more on basically through the trailer what the abilities will look like for Emma Frost. We didn't get really any details yet about what they do completely just yet, but based on some leaks that we know, we can probably get an idea. So one thing we do know is that in the trailer it was announced that Emma Frost is going to be a Vanguard. So obviously it's confirmed based on the rumors she will be a Vanguard, and she's obviously well known for, you know, her in her diamond form, like in the comics and movies, stuff like that. So we're going to see how that plays out. So here are the leaks, what we know basically. So these are all her abilities. And one key factor I'll mention about is that she will basically have a 2 different form switch, similar to how Cloak and Dagger functions, of course. So she will have her human form, and then she'll have her diamond form you could switch over to. Is her human form ability she has, of course, her human form that she'll be, I guess, starting off, of course, whenever you start the game, obviously. Her primary tech is called Psychic Ray, which will be a kind of like a laser, and it's a little bit different compared to other basic attacks that most Vanguards have. She has like a laser-like attack, almost similar to Iron Man completely. So it can be imaginable how that will be like right there. And based on like the trailer I've basically seen right there, it really does seem like it really can melt pretty well very easily. So I can imagine if anyone gets way too close to her right there, it's going to really just mess with people like hell. So you got to be very careful. Then she does have an ability called Psychic Barrier, which based on the gameplay we've seen, I think it's like this little tiny little object you can place on the ground that deploys like on the ground. And basically it acts like a new shielding mechanic for the Vanguards right there, where she supports others rather than herself mostly. And it looks like it slowly starts damaging and protecting allies. Mostly it acts kind of like just a regular barrier. So as you can, like, if you've seen like in the trailer, basically you see the Groot just trying to fight off Emma Frost. And then when she places it, it's basically taking all the hits, which could be really good to help teammates out for sure. It protects her, so it could be imaginable to see that it will actually help teammates out. You just place it down on the ground and leave it there, and teammates could just stay right behind it, and they could still hurt the enemies, while the hits from the enemy team will have to be endured right into the special like Psychic Barrier completely right there. Then her E ability is called Mind Crush, which allows her basically to spawn some kind of diamond totem that deals like AoE damage to enemies in its area when it gets hit. You not only got a cool ability where you can just kind of like act like a barrier completely similar to many shields, but it will mostly protect everyone else. You can just kind of leave down when you're holding it down on the ground right there. But then you also got another one which acts kind of like a AoE really effect right there. So you got these two cool abilities. One that can let you just do a typical barrier like this that can help just seal up all your teammates and keep them protected while you're getting around in battle, basically. And then you got another one that acts basically a similar defense that basically deals AoE damage. So a totem that can be placed on the ground, deals AoE damage from enemies who get too close to it, and still kind of acts like a protection in some way. And then now you got the Psychic Barrier, which basically acts like a typical Vanguard shield, but it's actually very effective to the point where it's mostly to protect your teammates rather than just yourself. Which, honestly, I think that's a pretty good idea to kind of encourage a focus on Vanguards to really keep on defending their teammates no matter what. So there's definitely some really good possibilities out of that I actually really like about that. So I think this is going to be a really good fun ability to try out, of course. So let me know what you guys think about that, of course. I definitely want to hear your thoughts about what you guys think about the ability right there. I think personally, one of my favorite ones, I think it's going to be that Psychic Barrier. The fact that you could just kind of just get down on a big, huge barrier like that could just focus nothing but defending teammates besides yourself. I actually like that concept a lot more, and I think that would be really cool. Just kind of give that a chance and just see how that plays out right there. Just seeing that showing in gameplay right there and just placing that down right there as it protects your teammates out. It kind of gives me like a similar vibe to Sigma from Overwatch. Just like, just kind of place the barrier right there. That is honestly pretty cool, and I actually do think it's really dope. So I'm looking forward to that pretty much. Then her shift ability, which is the diamond form, which is the transformation one, of course. So you can imagine that will allow you to switch right over, of course, and do your thing right there completely and switch to her other form with her other set abilities. Now, we do know is that in the middle of her time shooting her Psychic Ray, we do see a meter pull up, which is probably her passive ability most likely. And, well, we don't really know much about what it does. We do know from these skills that it's probably going to be like either Soul Control or Piercing Spike, which we do know either one of those are probably going to be the passive ability, which we possibly believe that's going to increase her base damage for the Ray attack. So basically, the more charge up it is, the more stronger of course, the Ray Psychic Ray is going to get stronger there. But that's all we know so far about what that does, of course. So we don't really know much about what Soul Control and also the passive ability or like Piercing Spike is either completely. We don't know that pretty much yet, but we'll find out soon enough about those two, because I believe those are both passive abilities, I believe, or one of them is probably a passive ability, most likely maybe Piercing Spike. I can kind of imagine maybe, or something like that. But we'll see how it plays out a bit more. There's still more details we got to kind of keep our eyes on. So let me know what you guys think, what those abilities are, and if they're passive or some of her set abilities. Definitely let me know for sure. Then we got her Diamond Form abilities. Again, she can switch over to her Diamond Form, and she's also got her set abilities in her own way too as well. Now, some details that I mentioned about her Diamond Form is that it does not act completely similar to Cloak and Dagger, or at least when it comes to being infinite, because it actually apparently looks like it might not be a free available ability all the time. It has like a 6-second ability cooldown. So that means you only got a 6-second window to use the Diamond Form and take advantage of it before you turn back to your normal human form. But that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because I can imagine these abilities are probably powerful. And based on the gameplay we've seen and some information, I believe we're in for a really big deal right here. So let me explain what I'm talking about right here. She gets 3 different abilities during her form. Her primary attack which is called Diamond Shock, and then her second attack is called Diamond Kick. And then her E ability will be called Diamond Back Slam. So the Diamond Shock will be her primary attack, and it basically just turns her into, instead of just firing a Psychic Ray, she turns into a full-on melee brawler and just punches people with her diamond hands basically at close range. So it basically acts both as a offensive and defensive situation because of her diamond, hard, strong body completely. So we can imagine the possibility of her basically acting similar to like the Thing and the Hulk basically in some way, basically when she switches that for a few seconds right there. She also has a Diamond Kick ability, her secondary, which basically allows her to push enemies and provide a crowd control basically attack, supposedly right here. And the video shows that, of course, that she can now kick enemies either into a wall to stun them and deal deal more additional damage, or you can knock people off the ledge, which is going to be honestly kind of pretty funny as hell to see the possibilities of where that's going to play out. I'm going to imagine the possibility of people just using that shit and just knocking people around and kicking them right into a wall and do damage, or just literally just sending them off into a cliff. It's just going to be hilarious. And then there's the Diamond Back Slam ability, which basically lets her grab the enemy in front, as you probably saw, like what happened to Mr. Fantastic and Captain America. And then she can send them to the ground pretty hard, and then you can then quickly, while they're trying to get up, you can then kick her back to the side using the Diamond Kick ability. So I can imagine some pretty big combos with that, making her pretty offensively, despite being a Vanguard tank, basically. So I can imagine the possibilities being crazy with this ability, honestly. Imagine just seeing people just knocking you with a back slam, and then you just kick them right into a wall and knock them out, or just literally just send them into the ground and send them falling into a hole or whatever. So it's kind of funny to see where that kind of plays out. I cannot wait to see some funny gameplay styles with this ability in mind. So it's going to be hilarious. I love it, man. It's going to be pretty fun. I'm not going to lie. I'm looking forward to it. The last thing to mention, of course, is her ult ability, which showed off basically, and based on the ability's name and also from the video, it's called Mind Control, and as you can probably guess, it's going to be a AoE range attack that slowly damages enemies and renders enemies who are in front of her to be mind control, and actually forces them to walk towards Emma. So it's basically a really good crowd control ability that will easily open up many possibilities to push enemies away and give you a chance to kind of keep them away and let your teammates try to kill them, or basically knock them off the ledge, which, as you saw in the trailer, you saw like Hela, Namor, and the Thing get mind control and get sent off the ledge and just die very quickly. So I can imagine some pretty crazy possibilities with that. So imagine just seeing that playing out right there. It's gonna be pretty hilarious, honestly. So what do you guys think about that? I definitely want to hear your thoughts on that ability right there. I think it's gonna be pretty hilarious, honestly, to see where that kind of plays out, of course, obviously. Then she also has, of course, a team-up ability, but we'll get to that in just a moment because there's actually some details I want to discuss the team-up abilities. But let me know what you guys think about Emma Frost and her setup right there. Let me know what you guys think about it. Now, one thing we do know is that we're also going to be getting, obviously, the next era we're going to be exploring. Obviously, it will be Krakoa, which is the mutant island. Obviously, A for the Hellfire theme. So we're going to probably expect to see, obviously, of course, the map, of course, and we're going to be seeing like tons of modes for that. I can imagine there might be at least definitely for sure a control point theme and also an escort theme matches for those. I'm looking forward to see where that kind of plays out, of course, and see where that happens right there. So let me know what you guys think about that with the map if it does come out, of course. I think the map's going to be pretty cool. There's a nice, cool Mutant Isle theme map, obviously, so I'm looking forward to it pretty much. I'm definitely looking forward to it for sure. But let's go ahead and get right into quickly is the skins. I definitely cannot wait to, like, obviously see these skins in action. There's tons of skins that were shown off. I mean, some we already know about, but there's actually tons of them that it looks like we're going to be getting to see right there if you've seen the trailer, obviously, and based on the promotion, stuff like that. So based on everything we know so far, here's all the themes we're going to be getting right now for the skins. So first we know is that Black Widow, Captain America, Black Panther, Scarlet Witch, and Cloak and Dagger will all be getting their own Hellfire Gala skins. There's also going to be a skin for Rocket Raccoon, which will be a tropical theme one. Star-Lord's getting one called King of Spartax. There is the Wolverine patch skin. The Luna Snow skin, she's getting Peach Momoko, I think I pronounced that right. Magique and Psylocke are getting their retro X-Men skins, which is also pretty dope. And probably one of my personal favorites is Bruce Banner getting one, which will be a suit design, which I believe is going to really maybe very much be based on his Mr. Fix-It appearance, which is the Gray Hulk appearance. So I really hope we'll see that in action. So let me know what you guys are going to be getting. I'm probably definitely looking forward to maybe getting maybe like that Wolverine one, or maybe Mr. Fix-It for the Hulk. These skins look pretty cool, honestly. Or the Captain America one, or the Black Panther one. I think either one of those look pretty dope, honestly. All right, so now let's go over it quickly is, of course, the big, huge balance post for season 2. There are tons of heroes that are getting balanced out right there, so I'll go ahead and give you guys all the information you need so you can do that, including the fact that there's many changes happening to some team abilities. Some that people are being changed up and shifted away from other team ups. Others are being created, others are being brand new, including the introduction of ones we know, at least from information, I believe, from Emma Frost, especially too. And it's gonna be pretty cool to see kind of where that plays out. Of course, I don't think we have any information about team ups for Ultron obviously yet, but I think we do have information for Emma Frost, so I'll go over that real quick, of course. So let's go and go for the abilities first. Starting off is for Vanguard, for all you lovely Tang mains out there right there. Captain America is, of course, undergoing some adjustments to his survivability, leading to a slight decrease in his overall resilience. So he's now getting reduced of his base health from 675 to 650 health, and also reducing the shield value of Living Legend from 400 to 350. So that means he's gonna have pretty much a little bit less health than usual, and also his shield value will be of Living Legend is gonna be a little more reduced, so it's gonna be a little more weaker right there to make it, I guess, maybe help balance a bit more, since it could be pretty hard to kind of defeat very easily. Doctor Strange, they're doing and is seeing a reduction in his offensive capabilities and limiting his battlefield control. They are decreasing the daggers of Danok damage per projectile from now 18 to 16, and reducing his Maelstrom of Madness conversion ratio of dark magic to damage from 1.3 to 1.2. So definitely some offensive capabilities of Doctor Strange are going to be quite limited, a little bit more right there. I think he might still be a little helpful in some ways, but yeah, they're definitely reducing him pretty well because he could be quite strong in many offensive capabilities a lot, right? I guess they want to make sure he's balancing up, that he's not being heavily offensive, but make sure he's very much defensive, though. I can imagine how that's going to play out with for many Doctor Strange mains, and I know because I play a lot of Doctor Strange a lot. The Hulk, he's getting a boost to his enhanced maneuverability and his improvement of survivability when entering combat. They're increasing his base movement speed from 600 to 650, so he's going to be a little bit faster. They're reducing the cooldown time for Industrial Guard from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. So that means we're going to be seeing, obviously, a very quick time to get that Gamma Shield up pretty well. And they decreased the minimum charge time for his Incredible Leap from 0.7 seconds to 0.5 seconds. So it'll be a lot more quicker to get your Incredible Leap charged up and just go out there and get there very quickly, which I think is very nice. Makes him a little more quickly and get him in the battle very quickly and hopefully get him out whenever he needs to. Magneto is also experiencing a slight decrease in his frequency of his ult, making it a little bit more longer to get it. It will now, instead of be 3,100 points of the energy cost, it will be now 3,400 energy point cost. So now it's going to be a little bit while for it to be used. Penny Parker will be enhanced of her primary attack damage efficiency and also a boost to her survivability and combat capabilities. They're increasing her health from 650 to 750, so making her a little bit alive more longer. And the Cyber Web Cluster now will have a chance, not joking, to crit now. So now there'll be a chance for Cyber Web Cluster to crit enemies now. But they reduced the movement speed penalty from firing Cyber Web Cluster from 40% to 20%. So they quite gave her a very easy chance to be more efficient with her damage and make her stay alive a little more. So more health right there. And now the Cyber Web Cluster can now crit enemies, and that movement speed penalty that happens is now been reduced to 20% instead of 40%. The Thing has now seen a slight reduction in his damage reduction effect now. They decreased the embattled leaps damage reduction ability to himself and teammates from 30% to 25%. So they nerfed down the damage reduction when using that ability, which I guess as that could be pretty much a little bit balanced a little bit, because that damage reduction could be pretty helpful. And not to mention that thing is pretty effective with his damage when he goes in there, especially with that charge ability of his right there. Thor is also receiving an increase to his survivability. They increase his health from 525 to 600 health, and they increase his movement speed from 600 to 650. So a little more faster and lasts a little bit longer right there. That's all the Vanguards. Now let's get into the duelists. Starting things off is Black Widow. She's actually receiving many optimizations to her shooting experience. In other words, what they're doing to her is they're actually adding a new effect where Black Widow can directly shoot after releasing the second kick of Edge Dancer and after using Electroplasmic Explosion. So basically, they're making it where now that when Black Widow, Black Widow can now directly shoot now after just simply releasing that second Edge Dancer kick completely, and even after just using her ult. So that's pretty, I guess, nice little way to optimize her shooting experience. Hawkeye is getting improvements to his drawing of his bow and his combat capabilities, and increase the threat of his ultimate ability too. So they reduce the slow effect when charging the bow from 30% to 20%, so quick charging up pretty easily. They increase his both his instances of damage for his hypersonic arrow from 50 to now 55 damage. So it'll be 55 damage now for both instances of damage of the hypersonic arrow ability. And they decrease the energy cost of his 100-sided ultimate ability from 3,700 to 3,100 now points, and improved his bow draw speed from increase from 1.35 to 1.5. So they basically really helped out very easily when using charging up his bow to now 20%. You'll have a little more extra damage now when using hypersonic arrow, and they decrease his ult ability while also improving the draw speed, of course, to using the ability now to 1.5, making it very quick and easy to use that. So Hawkeye is definitely looking to get a buff right into it, so he can hopefully be an effective DPS. I might have to try a Hawkeye a bit more to try to get practice, because that sounds like a pretty good buff that I'm glad Clinton's getting right there. So that's pretty dope, honestly. Hela is also seeing a reduction in her mobility while slightly enhancing her more offensive powers, which is even crazy because she's pretty effective in some ways. So let me go over it real quick. So first is they increase the cooldown time for her Astral Flock from 12 seconds to 15 seconds. So it will last a little bit longer in the cooldown. So this hopefully make it easy for people to catch up to a Hela if they end up running off with Astral Flock. They increase her spell field damage from a Piercing Knight from 30 to 35. So now it's 35 damage with spell field from the spell field, a part of it of the Piercing Knight ability. So it's still quite effective right there, but at least that with Astral Flock hopefully will slow her down a little bit. And they decrease the cooldown time for Soul Drainer from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. So it will be a little easy for Soul Drainer right there. So some balances to make her offensive still effectively, but also to make sure she's not just getting away so easily every single time when going after her. So we'll see how that plays out, of course. We'll see how that plays out, honestly. Human Torch, he's getting also a better survivability and attack feedback improvements to enhance his impact across various combat scenarios, they say. They will be reducing the attack interval for Fire Cluster from 0.6 seconds to 0.5 seconds, and the launch timing of the primary attack projectile has also been advanced, so better improvements to the Fire Cluster ability to make it more, of course, quicker, and obviously have a better projectile, like better projectile attacks right there. And increase the cooldown for Flaming Meteor from 12 seconds to 15 seconds. But they did add a new effect, because after releasing Flaming Meteor, you immediately gain a 75% bonus health, which will start to fall off 3 seconds later at a rate of 30 health per second. So they made it a little more like more of a cooldown with Flaming Meteor, that attack ability when you go lunging right there, but they decided to make it a little more better by, if you do go for the attack, you gain a little bit of bonus health, and after 3 seconds, it will drain up pretty quickly. So, I mean, I guess that's a nice slight buff right there in some ways, but also hopefully we'll see how that plays out with Fire Cluster, and hopefully we'll see how Flame Meteor goes well with that increased cooldown, but also that additional 75%, and it says not 75%, 75 bonus health. But it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out, of course, with that interval attack cluster buff right there. So we'll see how that kind of goes for that reason, and especially with the increased cooldown of Flame Meteor, but that extra 75 bonus health. So we'll see how that plays out, of course, for sure. Iron Man, he's getting improvements to his mid-range combat effectiveness. They slightly reduced his hitbox size, so I guess they're going to make it a little bit difficult to hit him at certain places right there. So That means you're gonna have to be pretty accurate on some movements, but I guess that will help him out, especially when you're flying around quickly with him. They also added a new feature now where you gain 100 bonus health when you activate Armor Overdrive or Gamma Overdrive, and that will fall off 5 seconds later at a rate of 30 health per second. So they're adding basically a way to kind of make him a little more effective, especially in mid-range. So that's kind of pretty helpful, at least for him being a very fine distance hero a lot. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. Of course, that bonus health will be pretty interesting right there, but it does only last for 5 seconds, and then it will drop off eventually. So be ready for that, of course, right there. Iron Fist, he's going to be getting increased to his combat effectiveness against many vanguards, and slightly improvement to his mobility, and a slight reduction to his survivability when entering the battlefield, of course. They are, first of all, reducing his bonus max health gain from using Harmony Recovery from 150 to 100, but the slow off of the fall rate of the health will now be from, instead of from 25 health per second to now 15 health per second. So that means, obviously, it will be a little less health you'll be getting, of course, but you will not lose health very quickly after the fall off of Harmony Recovery ending. Then they're also be lowering his fixed damage during Yatji Chunkun, which will be reduced from 10 to 9, but increase the percentage damage of the enemy's max health per strike from 1.7 to 2.1. So they're basically lowering that attack's basically fixed damage from just 9 now, but they also increase the percentage of the enemy's max health basically when per strike that happens. So it'll be it won't be as effective from its normal typical damage, but it'll be increased more for the percentage, obviously, based on the enemy's max health, of course. And they also decrease the cooldown of Kunlun Kick's ability, the ability right there, from 12 to 10 seconds. So you'll be a little more easy to use that kick ability constantly. So that's a nice little buff to basically making him more quick and basically make him be able to be more effective, especially for many different vanguards. But they made him a little bit less about surviving more easily, so he's not easily able to like escape from many enemies who are trying to kill him, of course. Mr. Fantastic, they are enhancing Reed's capabilities while making some balance adjustments to his own ultimate charge rate, and also adding additional control ability and better optimization of the release experience of the ultimate ability. So they increasing his health from 350 to 375, so he has a little more health. They boost the damage of Stretch Punch from 60 to 65, and from 70 to 80 while in his inflated state. So now it'll be 65 damage during his normal state, and then when he gets to his buffed out form, it's gonna be like 80 damage now. The Flexible Elongation, which is a new effect they're gonna be adding right here into this, which is now where if enemies are within range, they will now suffer a 35% slow effect now. And this will reduce Flexible Elongation cooldown time from 10 to 8 seconds. So now there's this new special kind of effect with it when he attacks now, so he can slow people down very easily with his Flexible Elongation ability, and it just has a cooldown. So it makes it a little more apparent to make it a little more better and easier now to kind of slow enemies down. So I like that kind of idea, what they'll be doing with the Flexible Elongation. They also reduce the elasticity gain when using when Elastic Strength, his passive ability now, from 30 to 20, while the elasticity provided by Stretch Punch, though, will be increased from 5 to 8, of course. And after entering the inflated state while this is happening too, the bonus health provided to self has been reduced from 450 to 400. The passive ability that happens with elasticity from Elastic Strength basically will now be a little bit less now, basically, for the reduction, but the ability will be provided a little more to kind of have a little more punch to it. But after you enter the inflated state when charging up, basically now will basically provide a little bit less for bonus health, basically. So now it's just 400 bonus health, not 450, of course. And there's also a new feature that will be included in the ult ability of Brainiac Bounce. Whenever you activate this ability, you actually will be immediately gaining bonus health equal to gain when entering inflated state. So basically, I think they're basically kind of trying to counter the reason that people tend to try to use first use the get into the inflated state and then use the ult so they can get the bonus health anyway. So they're giving a good reason to say, don't just charge up your ability when you're using the ult. Now you have a reason to now just use your ult anyway now, since you'll just get the bonus health. So I can see where that kind of plays out for sure. I think it'll be pretty cool to kind of see where that kind of goes. So hopefully we'll see where that plays out, of course. Moon Knight, they are optimizing his projectile bounce feedback while improving the maneuverability and his ult ability and his survivability. So what they did was they increased the projectile speed of his crescent darts from 120 meters per second to now 150 meters per second. So it is much more faster right now. But they also give him a new effect now where you gain a 25 bonus health with each enemy hit up to a maximum of 100. with 3 seconds after the bonus health, it will stop increasing and it will drop off at a rate of 20 health per second. So that means now your crescent darts are faster now. And for each time an enemy is hit, you gain 25 bonus health up to 100. And after 3 seconds, if it stops giving the bonus health, you basically drop off at 20 health per second. And that's gonna be interesting to see where that plays out, which is honestly pretty funny. Honestly, I think that's pretty hilarious that they're really buffing him like hell. Honestly, since I know Moon Knight can be pretty effective like there already as he is, so it'll be fun to see how that plays out as a DPS. So we'll see how that kind of goes. They also sped up Moonlight Hook's pull-up startup time after hit from 0.4 seconds to 0.15 seconds, so it's a little more faster right there. And they extend the duration of Hand of Khonshu from 3.5 seconds to 4.5 seconds. So it's a little more than ever, of course. And they also increase the number of the Talons now generated during this period from 14 to 18. And additionally, the fall speed of the Talons have been slightly enhanced. So a new damage fall mechanic for the spell field has been now added. And now it's beginning 1.5 meters from the center and reaching a maximum reduction of 70% at 5 meters. So now the Hand of Khonshu ult now will, of course, last a bit longer. They increase the Talons. And additionally, that fall speed of the Talons has been enhanced now, and a new damage fallout mechanic for the spell field now has been added, where now beginning at 1.5 meters basically from the center, it will have a reduction of its fall off the damage right there from 70% at 5 meters. So if people are too far over there, it's not going to be as effectively as much right there, but that's pretty interesting right there to see how that plays out right there, where it can still be pretty effective if people are too far in. So interesting placements they'll probably do with that, of course. So we'll see how that plays out. Scarlet Witch, they're reducing her survivability and increasing her threat level against strategists and duelists and optimizing her ultimate ability a bit more. So they removed the percent damage of chaos control while increasing the fixed damage. So it's now from 60 damage per second to 80 damage per second. But they increase the Chthonian burst projectile damage from 35 to 40, as well as the spell field damage of it from 35 to 40 right there. So 35 to 40 damage right there. They're increasing the Chthonian burst projectiles damage as well from 35 to 40 damage, as well as the spiel damage to the same amount. So 40 damage for the projectile damage and the 40 damage for the spell field part of it, of course, Chthonian burst. They're increasing the cooldown of Mystic Projection from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. So it's a little more cooldown with Mystic Projection now. So obviously it will take a while to be used on that. And they reduce the phase state time of it from 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds. So it makes it a little bit difficult for anyone just to simply run off so easily and get away when they're getting close on health. So it's going to give Scarlet Witch a little bit of a hard time to survive, of course. And last but not least, they rework the slow effect of Reality Eraser, which is now to start at 1.5 seconds instead of just starting immediately, and with a linear increase to a 35% slow over 3.5 seconds. So they reworked that slow effect of the ability and made sure that instead of it starting immediately, it starts within 1.5 seconds when beginning the ability, and with a linear increase to also her slow effect basically after 3.5 seconds, of course, happens. Star-Lord will be reducing their damage output of him and efficiency of his ultimate ability. So they basically what they did was reduce his blaster barrage damage now from 8 damage per second to 75. So it's quite a nerf right there. And introduced a new damage fall-off mechanic completely when using his attack, and also obviously using his all abilities. So starting at 4 meters and maxing out at 8 meters, it will be around 80% damage reduction. So he's going to be very much need to be very close range. Otherwise, you're going to basically not get anything much out of that right there. So he's getting quite nerfed. So be ready for that damage reduction right there. It's going to be pretty crazy right there completely. Now moving on to Winter Soldier, my boy Bucky, who I main a lot. They said they were going to lower his threat level against Vanguards and reduce the margin for error for his ultimate ability. They're increasing the cooldown time for his Bionic Hook from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. So Bionic Hook won't be used too often, so I expect that to happen, of course. And they've reduced the base damage of the Kraken Impact ult ability from 180 damage. So it'll be 80 damage whenever using that stuff right there. So it's nerfed. But they did lower the culling threshold from 20% of the maximum health to 15%. So they basically really made sure that he's not as effective as he used to. He's still quite powerful, but they also made sure that he's not too strong, which I think is kind of fair, honestly, because his ult ability is pretty strong in some ways, and that calling threshold ability of 20% might be a little bit too much for anyone to reach. So imagine just getting that right there and getting 15% right there. That's going to be a lot more better to kind of help make it still like, it's still quite effective, but at least won't be so easy for you just to get your ult back very quickly. So I think this is really good. I think this nerf is going to help out a lot with Winter Soldier, still make him strong, but not to the extent where he's basically going to be too strong for anyone to handle, of course. So I think this is going to be really good to have that for sure. Last for Duelist is Wolverine, which they're tuning his rage acquisition rate and slightly lowering his control intensity over enemies. So what they're doing is they're increasing the rage that gain in when Savage Claw hits. So instead of getting 7 points, it will be 10 points per Savage Claw hit. And while Rage's gain from Berserker Claw Strike has now been decreased from 7 to 5. So when using any normal hits, you'll get 10 points now instead of 7. But while range gain from Berserker now Claw Strike, that attack now, it will be decreased. So 5 points instead of 7. They also reduced the rage gain from Feral Leap as well too, from 20 to 10. So you won't get a lot when using Feral Leap. And also from Vicious Rampage from 20 to 15. So they're definitely making the basic attack more effective and everything else kind of nerfed right there. But they did also made it where rage gain from taking damage now has been increased from 3 to 5. So your abilities won't be as effective to get you your rage up, but your basic attack and taking damage will be very much increased. So 10 points whenever you do attack damage, and 5 points whenever you're getting dealt the damage yourself too. They also are reducing the time an enemy is knocked down from the last stand ability from 1 second to 0.75 seconds. So you have a better chance to get up on off your feet and be able to get back into the fight right away if you get attacked. So I think it's kind of very fair because I've gotten hit about that many times, and pretty much it's so crazy to deal with that shit sometimes. Though, of course, they nerfed that a little bit right there, so we'll see how that plays out now and if it is very effective still. I think it's still pretty effective nevertheless because you can still get some easy kills with that ability if you charge up your attack with your rage very easily. So we'll see how that kind of goes. Strategists, they're also doing a lot of stuff right here too as well. First is Adam Warlock. They are now slightly reducing the frequency of Adam's abilities and adjusting the healing that's provided by his ultimate ability after reviving his teammates. So now his Soul Bond cooldown has been increased from 30 seconds to 40. So they definitely are making it a little bit less effective because that ability can be pretty effective a lot. But they did made now his ultimate now restore 30% of a fallen ally's health instead of just simply a fixed 100. So teammates will get their health back pretty quickly. So any else like Namor's all when using that or anyone else coming after him like that won't be able to kill him so quickly. Cloak and Dagger, they're optimizing the logic of the Dynamic Duo's ult building now. So they're doing some more with the Eternal Bond, which now after activating it, the duration of the first 3 heal zones will no longer be calculated separately. Instead, they will remain active until the duration of the final healing zone ends, at which point all will be removed together. So now basically the ability will now make it where they won't be separate to when they're activated. They will now all remain just simply active until eventually the duration of the final last zone that appears just ends. And at which point, everyone will be removed together at the same time. Invisible Woman, she'll be fine-tuned up her protective capabilities to create more strategic gameplay experiences. Mostly what they did is just decrease the shield value of Guardian Shield from 300 to 250. So they're basically making her a little bit nerfed a bit there for her Guardian Shield ability right there. So it gives her a good reason to kind of be more strategic on when she's using that ability and pop the shield for healing shelf or not, because I've seen that being used a lot. It can be pretty effective. So getting a nerf will kind of tell her to be very cautious when using it. Loki, they are balancing his influence in matches, especially when it comes to one of his key abilities, and this includes Regeneration Domain. They are increasing the cooldown of it from 25 seconds to 30 seconds, which I think is kind of fair, honestly, because that Regeneration Domain can be pretty effective, and if you play smart, you can actually place that in certain places where teammates can't even shoot the rock above and just destroy it. So I can imagine the possibility of that being very hard now for Loki mains, including myself. So I think that's going to be a little fair right there. So I think it's a fine nerf to him right there to deal with that. So that influencement is going to be really effective against Loki mains, including myself. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. Mantis, they're emphasizing her strategy over speed and modifying her health and buff mechanics. They are reducing her health from 275 to 250. And the effects of Healing Flower and Ally Inspiration now can be stacked up to a maximum of 16 seconds. So that means anytime you stack up someone like that, you can keep using any of those abilities on your teammates. So Allied Inspiration and Healing Flower will keep going, and it will now be stacked up to 16 seconds, which means it will keep healing him over time. Rocket is also getting certain adjustments to his healing abilities and to enhance team survivability while balancing just his mobility, decreasing the healing error area of repair mode spears. So the repair mode spears basically is now been reduced from 70 health per second and now to 50. So it's 50 health per second now with those orbs now. But they added a new effect to it, where of a one-time healing of 55 health when enemies are hit by it. So that means instead of just trying to be stuck by it and being held the full amount, you can now just get a less when you're close to it. But if you get directly hit by it, you get a nice little 55 health from it. And also the projectile speed's been increased now from 4.5 meters a second to now 7 meters a second. So much faster. Less health now when obviously within its range and its area, but a little more when you get hit, especially too as well still. They also reduced the cooldown of the jetpack. They also extend the cooldown for the jetpack dash from 6 seconds to 10 seconds, but reduce the dash distance from 8 meters to 8. They extend the cooldown for jetpack dash from 6 seconds to 10 seconds and reduce the dash distance from 10 meters to 8 meters. So they basically found a little balance to do that because Rocket can pretty much be affected to get around very easily. So now they've made it last a bit longer now to use Jetpack Dash and made it harder to reach out far enough with the ability. So this kind of makes it harder for, like, it's still effective in some ways to kind of get Rocket away out of enemies, but now you basically can't be too heavily reliant on it or else you'll spam it and lose the ability. So also, finally, is the reducement of the damage boost from his ultimate Sia, which is now at 25% instead of 40%. So the damage boost will be no longer effective, but they add a new effect. During the ability's duration, linked allies together will now receive an additional 100 bonus health per second, capping at 150, I guess, while inside the Sia ability. So after you break the link, the bonus starts to fall off after 1 second at a rate of 75 per second. And additionally, the cost has now been increased from 3,700 to 4,000 points for the energy cost. So they basically made it where now that it's still effectively damage based, but it's not anymore at 40%. It's now 25%. And adding the new effect now during the ability's duration, where it links allies now to an extra bonus health up to 150 and with 100 bonus health per second. And after you break that link, you'll lose it and drop off after 1 second rate of 75 health per second and increase the cooldown. So you can see where they're making it focus with Rocket's no longer just damage based, but a little more damage and heal based. So I'm kind of encourage people to stick around if you want to get the heal bonus on top of the damage bonus. So that is pretty cool nevertheless. I think that is not bad, honestly. All right, so that's all the regular balance changes. Let me know what your thoughts are about the hero changes. Let me know what you guys think about them. If you guys have any thoughts on it, let me know. But let me talk about now is the team abilities next, which is the last thing we'll talk about right here, since they're actually really changing a lot of the team abilities completely. So let me go ahead and give you guys a breakdown about what's happened. So basically what they did is that they definitely either added some new heroes to the mix to drive new different abilities, or adjusted or removed some heroes. Let me go quickly explain to you guys what they did. So first of all, they adjusted and removed some heroes from certain abilities. This includes first, Ammo Overload with Rocket and Winter Soldier. They removed Winter Soldier to the ability of Ammo Overload, so he will no longer get that Infinite Grit ability with Rocket Raccoon. They removed Namor from Loon Snow's Chilling Charisma ability, so he will lose the Frozen Spawn ability. Dimensional Shortcut now with Magique and Psylocke will be lost. So Psylocke has lost the Psionic Disc ability with Magique. Gamma Hulk Charge with Hulk and Doctor Strange will now no longer take place. So Doctor Strange will no longer be sticking around for that. Instead, Namor will be taking its place, and Namor now gains Gamma Monstro. So now he has that completely. Metallic Chaos will be removed with Scarlet Witch and Magneto. Magneto will no longer be able to work with Scarlet Witch to use Metallic Fusion. And Voltaic Union, which was with Thor with Captain America or Storm, they removed Storm and Captain America from this ability. So the team ability with Charge Gale and Charge Aegis will no longer stick around with these guys right there instead right there. As for the new abilities replacing each and every one of them, of course, they did this instead. They include a new one called Arcane Order, which will be a combination with both Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange. And this team ability now, what it will do is that when these two are together, this will cause Doctor Strange to gain a nice bonus of a maximum health increase of 100 to his base health. And Scarlet Witch will also unlock a new magical Mystic Burst ability through her team up with Doctor Strange. Well, we know what this ability will do. Basically, it will allow you to deal basically even more higher burst damage with Scarlet Witch, basically, which will especially deadly against tanks. So basically, it would make Scarlet Witch more effective for tank attacks right there and deal some damage. Next is Stars Align, which will be a combination of both Captain America and Winter Soldier. So Bucky and Cap will be working together. During this team up, Captain America will gain a maximum health increase of 100 and a 5% boost to his damage output. Winter Soldier will knock the devastating stellar impact ability through his team up with Captain America. Basically, what we know about this ability, what it does is that it will allow, of course, let Bucky slam his mechanical arm against Cap's shield, like we've seen like in the movies and some moments in the comics like that. And it basically will be like an ability that will kind of just like, I believe, deal some significant AoE damage and will significantly improve his mobility, basically, which will be interesting because I don't know how manageable it will be, since obviously some people who looked at this mentioned that it was like pretty hard to manage when testing this out basically seeing how this works out. So it'll be interesting to see where it will be interesting when they both come together and use this to activate the skill. But I'm interested to see where this kind of mobility and deal AoE damage will play out. I'm interested to see how this plays out, how manageable it will be. So we'll see what happens, of course. And last but not least is the new one that will be coming out for Emma Frost, and she'll be combining this with both Magneto and Psylocke, and this will be called Mental Projection. And this ability, what it will do, it will first give Frost, who is the anchor of this, a 100 increase to her maximum health, so she'll get a maximum increase health of her 100 or of up to 100. And both Magneto and Psylocke will receive abilities. Magneto will receive the Magnetic Resonance ability, and Psylocke will receive the Soul Resurgence ability. And basically what we know is that it will grant both Magneto and Psylocke basically the ability to also create illusionary projections of themselves. They will actually serve as just simple diversions. And illusions will mirror all movements, which could really confuse enemies, of course. And the team up is particularly effective, especially for Psylocke, enhancing her, typical stealthy flanks a bit too. So we'll see how that plays out, of course. Obviously, if you guys want to read the details, I'll put the link in the description below of all the details, of course. Obviously, so if you guys want to go read it for yourself, of course. But that's pretty much all the related team-up abilities. Let me know what you guys think about these change-ups. How do you guys feel about them, about many of them being adjusted or removed, and the new ones, of course, replacing them right there. I'm interested to see what they do with Bucky and Captain America with that one with the Shield Slam ability. So it'd be interesting to see how effective that could be and how much impact it could be for sure. Especially with knowing that Bucky's no longer being involved with Rocket Raccoon with ammo overload. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. But anyway, that is going to do it for my discussion about Season 2 of Marvel Rivals. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Again, if you guys find this video helpful, hit the like button if you enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe to show your support of the Pizza Party for all things Marvel Rivals content and other future gaming content, of course. I had a great time. I'm looking through over this because I think Season 2 is shaping to be pretty well. I'm pretty excited to see where Emma Frost goes with her stuff right there. I'm interested to find out more about her and just kind of see how she plays it, very much sure. And Ultron, we only know so far is based on leaks, of course, so hopefully we'll see more information on him very soon in May. So we just got to stay tuned for this. So we'll just got to keep our eyes peeled, but who knows? Maybe we'll be in for a lot of fun stuff in the future. So stay tuned for that, and I look forward to definitely covering the future. So let me know if you guys have any info you guys want to discuss about this. Of course, I'd love to give your thoughts on it and discuss it, of course. So definitely stay tuned. But thank you all for joining. Hope you enjoyed this. I'm your host, Game Pizza Boy, host of the Pizza Party, and I will talk to you guys later. Stay safe out there. Much love, and take care, my friends. Peace.